Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. While other fan bases were out here overpaying for mediocre bullpen arms and aging designated hitters, Craig Breslow and the Boston Red Sox were somewhere in a back room, ski masks on, executing not one, but two of the slickest trades in recent baseball memory. That's right, folks. The Red Sox committed highway robbery twice this offseason, and if you haven't been paying attention, buckle up. Because what happened in Boston this winter is the kind of front office wizardry that championship dynasties are built on. This is the Red Sox rundown, and today we are going deep on both of these heists, breaking them down piece by piece, because Red Sox Nation deserves to know exactly what kind of treasure Craig Breslow dragged back to Fenway Park while everyone else was sleeping. And before we dive in, a quick shout out to Red Sox Nation around the globe. We know you're not just in Boston, you're not just in New England. You're watching from cities and countries all over this planet, because that's what this fan base is. It's massive, it's passionate, and it is everywhere. So wherever you're tuning in from right now, drop your city in the comments, because we want to know where the nation is watching from today. Now let's talk about heist number one, and honestly, this one might be the sneakiest of the two. The Red Sox acquired Braden Ward from the Colorado Rockies in exchange for relief pitcher Brennan Bernardino. Simple transaction on the surface, routine even. Just another pre-Rule 5 draft housekeeping move that barely made a ripple in the baseball news cycle. But here's the thing about ripples, sometimes they turn into waves. And Braden Ward, ladies and gentlemen, is shaping up to be one heck of a wave. Here's the backstory. The Colorado Rockies, bless their hearts, were not going to protect Braden Ward on their 40-man roster ahead of the Rule 5 draft deadline. Now, if you're not familiar with how this works, let me paint you a picture. Any player left unprotected is fair game for other teams to select and keep on their major league roster for the entire following season. But Craig Breslow didn't even need to go the Rule 5 route. He spotted Ward sitting there, unprotected, and he swooped in with a straight trade offer before Colorado even had a chance to reconsider. He got Ward for Bernardino, a relief pitcher who, let's be honest, was not exactly Mariano Rivera, in exchange for a utility outfield prospect with some of the most electric tools in the entire Red Sox minor league system. And then spring training happened. Braden Ward walked into Fort Myers and promptly made every single person in that complex stop what they were doing and pay attention. In 20 at-bats this spring, Ward racked up 9 hits, 3 RBIs, a walk, and an absolutely absurd 10 stolen bases. 10 stolen bases in spring training. The man is nearly hitting 500, and he is treating opposing catchers like they're standing statues out there on the base paths. He is fast. He is fearless. He is relentless, and he plays the game with a kind of electricity that you genuinely cannot teach. You either have that gear or you don't, and Braden Ward, he has it in abundance. Now, people are comparing him to Jarren Duran, and look, let's be careful here because the kid hasn't even made his major league debut yet. He is young, he has a lot to prove, and the jump from the minors to the big leagues is one of the most brutal transitions in professional sports. Nobody is saying Braden Ward is the next Jarren Duran. But what people are saying, what scouts are saying, what his teammates are saying, and most importantly, what manager Alex Cora is saying, is that this kid has the same kind of profile that makes Duran so dangerous. He gets on base. He doesn't strike out at an alarming rate. He creates chaos every single time he steps foot on the base paths. And in today's game, that kind of player is worth his weight in gold. And speaking of Alex Cora, let's talk about what Skip had to say about Ward, because this is where things get really interesting. Cora said, and I'm quoting directly here, that the speed is real, that Ward is one of the most unique players he's seen, and that while he might need him down the stretch, Ward is absolutely the kind of guy you want around in September and October. Let that sink in for a moment. The manager of the Boston Red Sox, a man who has managed playoff baseball and knows exactly what it takes to win in the postseason, is already talking about Braden Ward as a player he may need for a September push or an October run. That is not nothing. That is a massive statement. Now, is Ward going to make the 26-man opening day roster? Almost certainly not. He hasn't made his major league debut yet, and the Red Sox have a crowded infield and utility situation with names like Nate Eaton, Nick Sogard, Andrew Monasterio, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Romy Gonzalez all in the mix. There are a lot of bodies fighting for a limited number of spots, and Ward is going to need some time to develop before he's ready to contribute at the highest level on a consistent basis. But here's the reality of baseball. Injuries happen, rosters shift, and when September rolls around and rosters expand, a player like Braden Ward, someone who can completely change the dynamic of a game the moment he steps on the field, becomes incredibly valuable. So here's the question I want to put to you right now, and I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this. Will Braden Ward make his major league debut in 2026? Go down to the comments right now and type Y for yes if you think he does, or N for no if you think he doesn't. Because based on what Cora is saying, based on the way Ward has performed this spring, and based on the fact that Romy Gonzalez is already starting the year on the injured list, I'm leaning toward maybe sooner than we think. But you let me know, Y or N. Drop it in the comments right now. And the beauty of this whole thing, all it cost the Red Sox was Brennan Bernardino, a relief pitcher with no guaranteed role on this roster. You want to talk about highway robbery? That is the definition. Breslow essentially turned a bullpen arm that didn't have a clear path to significant contribution into a potential spark plug outfielder who could be terrorizing opposing defenses in Fenway Park before the year is out. Masterful, absolutely masterful. But wait. Because if you thought heist number 1 was impressive, heist number 2 is the one that is going to make your jaw hit the floor. Craig Breslow, the Milwaukee Brewers called, and they'd like their players back. Because what Boston pulled off in the Caleb Durban trade is the kind of deal that gets general managers fired in the city that gave up the goods. The Red Sox acquired Caleb Durban, Andrew Monasterio, and Anthony Siegler. In return, Milwaukee received Kyle Harrison, David Hamilton, and Shane Drohan. On paper, it might look like an even swap, equal names on both sides of the ledger. But when you actually dig into what each side got, the picture becomes crystal clear. Boston won this trade in a landslide. Let's start with Caleb Durban, because he is the centerpiece of this entire deal, and he deserves every bit of the hype that is starting to build around him in Boston. This is a player who finished third in National League Rookie of the Year voting in 2025. Third. In the entire National League, among all rookies, he was that good, and somehow the Red Sox got him as part of a package deal that also included 2 other contributors. That is bananas. That is genuinely hard to believe, and yet here we are. In spring training, Durban has looked exactly like what Red Sox fans were hoping for. In 14 at-bats, he's posted 5 hits and 5 RBIs. That RBI number is significant. That tells you he's not just putting up empty statistics. He's hitting the ball when it matters, with runners on base, in situations where production is required. On top of that, he's shown tremendous plate discipline with 2 walks and only 1 strikeout. This is a guy who makes contact, puts the ball in play, and trusts his abilities. Those are winning traits at the major league level. And defensively, at third base, he's been excellent. The Red Sox have been looking for stability at the hot corner for what feels like forever, and Durban has walked in and immediately looked the part. His swing profile is a dream fit for Fenway Park, a ballpark that rewards line drive hitters who can use the whole field, and that is exactly the kind of hitter Caleb Durban is. He's going to hit some off that green monster. He's going to drive in runs in big spots. And Red Sox fans are going to absolutely fall in love with this guy once the regular season gets rolling. People are comparing him to Dustin Pedroia, and while that's a lofty comparison, you can absolutely see where it comes from. Durban is a grinder, a dirt dog, a player who competes on every single pitch and never gives away an at-bat. He plays with an edge and an intensity that this Red Sox lineup has been missing, and his presence in the middle of that lineup is going to make everyone around him better. But here's the part of this trade that I don't think is getting enough attention. Because when people talk about the Caleb Durban trade, they lead with Durban, as they should, but they tend to gloss right over Andrew Monasterio. And folks, Monasterio might end up being just as important to this 2026 Red Sox season as Durban himself. Consider this. Romy Gonzalez, who was expected to be a key piece of Boston's infield situation this year, is already starting the season on the injured list. That means there is a very real, very significant hole that needs to be filled right now, today, on opening day. And Andrew Monasterio is the guy who is going to fill it. He is set to serve as the platoon partner for Marcelo Mayer, and based on what we've seen this spring, he is more than capable of handling that responsibility. In 13 at-bats this spring, Monasterio is hitting 4 for 13 with 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and just 1 strikeout. That walk-to-strikeout ratio is exceptional, and it speaks to the kind of professional hitter he is. He's not up there hacking away. He's working counts, taking his pitches, and doing the kind of things that make the lineup around him function better. And against left-handed pitching, which is exactly the role he's being asked to fill, his numbers from 2025 were outstanding. He hit .273 with an .837 OPS against lefties, with 10 RBIs and 5 walks. Those numbers are completely comparable to what Romy Gonzalez produced in that same role, which means Alex Cora essentially has the same player producing the same kind of numbers, just in a different body. And Cora has been raving about Monasterio all spring, noting his versatility, his ability to hit lefties, and his movement around the field. Now, here's the absolutely wild part of this whole situation. Baseball history has seen this happen before. A player goes down with an injury, someone steps in as a temporary replacement, and then performs so well that when the original player gets healthy, there's no spot for him to come back to. It's called a Wally Pipp situation, and for those who don't know their baseball history, Wally Pipp was the first baseman for the New York Yankees who took a day off, and some kid named Lou Gehrig stepped in and played 2,130 consecutive games. Now, nobody is saying Monasterio is Lou Gehrig, but the point stands. If he tears the cover off the ball while Romy is on the shelf, the Red Sox suddenly have a very interesting decision to make when Gonzalez is healthy enough to return. And what did Boston give up to get both Durban and Monasterio and Seigler? Let's look at the other side of this trade, honestly and fairly. Kyle Harrison is a pitcher who, despite having genuine talent, did not have a clear path to a spot in the Red Sox rotation. The starting rotation in Boston was already set, and Harrison was functioning as depth, which is valuable, but not irreplaceable. David Hamilton was a utility infielder with blazing speed, but a limited overall skill set. He could run, yes, but his bat was a genuine question mark at the major league level. And Shane Drohan is a promising pitching prospect, no question, but he is raw, he is young, and with the depth already present in the Red Sox system, his path to contributing in Boston in the near future was not exactly a clear highway. So let's do the math here. You give up one starting pitcher who couldn't crack your rotation, one utility man whose value was primarily his legs, and one pitching prospect who was unlikely to contribute in 2026. In return, you get a top-3 Rookie of the Year finisher who is going to be your everyday third baseman, a versatile infielder who is arguably your most important bench piece right now given Romy's injury, and an additional prospect to boot. And the fan base in Milwaukee was furious when this deal went down. When Brewers fans are angry that they traded a player away, when they're upset about losing him, that is your signal that you got the better end of the deal. That is the clearest possible sign that the player you just acquired is the real deal. And Brewers fans were absolutely livid when Caleb Durban headed to Boston. If that ain't highway robbery, then the phrase has no meaning. Craig Breslow came into this offseason with a plan. He identified value where others didn't see it. He moved quickly when Colorado left Braden unprotected. He identified the perfect fit in Caleb Durban and put together a package that got the deal done without gutting the farm system. He went out and found Andrew Monasterio, who may turn out to be one of the most underrated acquisitions of the entire offseason across all of baseball. And he did all of this while keeping the core of this team intact and positioning the Red Sox not just to compete in 2026, but to potentially make a serious run at the postseason. Now I want to hear from you. Grade the Caleb Durban trade for me. Straight up. Give it a letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F. and drop it in the comments right now. Because based on what we've seen in spring training, based on the profiles of every player involved, based on the reaction from Milwaukee's fan base, I'm sitting somewhere between a B+ and an A- right now. The ceiling on this trade is enormous if Durban becomes the everyday star that his rookie season suggested he could be. But we've got to see it play out over a full regular season before we go full A+ on it. So here's where we land today. The Boston Red Sox had arguably the most underrated and overlooked offseason of any contending team in baseball. While bigger markets were making splashy headlines with massive free agent signings, Breslow was quietly building something in Boston, something with speed and athleticism and grit and the kind of player acquisition that wins championships. 2 trades, 2 highway robberies. And when the 2026 season kicks off, Red Sox Nation is going to feel very, very good about where this team is headed. One final thing before we wrap up. If you are not already part of this family, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers before opening day, and we are almost there. Every single subscriber matters. Every single one of you watching right now who hasn't hit that button yet, this is your moment. Join the family. Be part of something that is growing every single day. And don't forget to drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, because that tells the algorithm that Red Sox content is what the people want, and the people are absolutely right. Drop your city in the comments. Tell me whether you think Braden Ward makes his Major League debut in 2026, Y for yes or N for no. Grade the Caleb Durban trade with a letter grade. And let's keep this conversation going, because Red Sox baseball is back, and it is going to be a spectacular ride this year. Until next time, let's go Sox.